underdog start. So it's always fun to see that team. And I agree with a lot of your commenters, and I'm very anti-Jason Garrett. I think he's just
that was going to be
like
my first
head coaches.
That was going to be my first question to you. Which side of the fence are you with Jason Garrett? And apparently you're on the same side I am.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's like most coaches in the NFL, which is, just conservative enough to keep their jobs for a long period of time, but, not outside of the box thinkers enough to put their teams over the top. And I think, when people talk about conservative approaches, it's not just about going for it on fourth down. It's not just about, kicking field goals and scoring touchdowns or those kinds of things. It's a mentality. It's the way you call plays. It's how you devise schemes. It's, risk-taking at an ultimate level. And I think there's just so much conservatism in the NFL and head coaching that most of the majority of the head coaches in the NFL are like Jason Garrett, which is they're average enough to keep their jobs, to maintain employment, status, but, not outside the box thinkers enough to push their team over the top. And, this team just makes excuses every single year.
That's what drives me crazy, Ari. Oh, my God. I mean, it's like, okay, we lost Tony Romo. It's okay that we only won one game without him. And it's like, how is that acceptable?
Right.
We had Charles Haley was talking about that Jerry Jones has built a house for losers. And I'll be honest with you, when we look at this season, we're still talking about, well, we lost Zeke Elliott, so, it's okay. We'll do better next year. Oh, we lost Tyron Smith. But I'm sitting here looking at the Eagles. They lost their starting quarterback. They lost Jason Peters. They lost Hicks. You didn't hear them making excuses. They had the next guy up. One of our slogans, next man up. Apparently our next man up is not that good.
Here's something that's interesting that I've always thought about, Mark. Being in San Antonio, I heard the Spurs. And, the Spurs, when they lost the championship in 2013 with that Ray Allen shot, in 2014, they were on a mission to win the championship. And it started with training camp. And they watched the finals from the previous year. And they looked. And basically what Pop said at the time was, look, I wanted to make sure that everybody that's on this team understands that we didn't lose this because the basketball gods got us. We lost this because we didn't get this rebound or we didn't, box out of this free throw. And I think in sports there's this much of, not wanting to dwell on the past failures. And maybe that's not even just sports, it's just guys in general. That we just don't like to look and dwell on our past failures. We only like to look ahead.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring all that up is because when Dez catch, non-catch happens, this is a great example. The approach of the Cowboys after that Packers game was not to look and dwell on what they did wrong, what issues that were the reasons for why they lost that Green Bay game. They lost the game to the Packers not because of the Dez catch, non-catch. They lost it because they couldn't get after Aaron Rodgers, who was hobbled. That was the problem. They could not get after him, and he was hurt in that game. But yet all they did was talk about, well, we moved on, we've moved past it. And it's like, well, that's what every coach, that's what every organization says. And yet when you look at quality organizations like the Spurs as an example, it's like they dwelled in the past, they fixed it, and they moved on. All Jason Garrett does is talk about fixing things and moving on,
but it's the same mistakes, though.
He moves on.
You can look at the same mistakes that we made 6-7 years ago. We're still making the same ones. I mean, you still have to learn. It's Aaron frickin' Rodgers. You don't leave time on the clock. Okay? Even had Dez caught that pass, and that's where everybody says, oh, well, had he caught the pass, it's like, hold on. Why are we passing and going for it all when it's 4th and 1? We're going to leave a lot of time on the clock. And then everybody says, oh, well, Tony Romo changed the play. Well, then you're the coach that should be in the guy's face saying, look, Tony, we want to score. We want to burn the clock and not give any time to Aaron Rodgers. So don't get me as, oh, it's Tony Romo. No, are you the coach or are you not the coach? And is he being hamstrung by Jerry Jones, which is a possibility. But I just don't see, after 7 years, that this is going to be the magical year for Jason Garrett. I just don't see it.
I think Jerry just wants it really badly. And Mark, you and I were talking about this before, but the Cowboys overcorrected. I mean, forever, after the Super Bowl era, they were running coaches out in a couple of years, and they were oversigning players. They were horrible in free agency, so they left a ton of dead money on their cap. These were issues with the Cowboys. They've overcorrected. Now they don't spend any money. They spend no money shoring up holes in free agency, and they've held on to a coach that's average at best. I mean, his record since being the Cowboys head coach, he's 500. He's a few games over 500 from the year he took over Wade Phillips, but he's a 500 head coach. He is what he is. And they don't spend any money in free agency. You were talking about DeMario Davis earlier and guys they could go out and get in free agency. It's like we haven't seen this team the last 2 off seasons address any of their needs in free agency. They just do it in the draft. They insist upon themselves the players that they've scouted and developed. And then those guys step in, and they're not as good. The Cowboys overrate their own players, and then they don't go out and spend money shoring up holes in free agency. They need to go out and get a left tackle to replace Tyron Smith or figure out what they can do if Tyron Smith's not going to be healthy. They need to go out and shore up their linebacking core. You just can't be married to Tyron Smith at this stage of his career with the back issues he has. You can't be married to Sean Lee anymore.
Yeah, well, here's the bad thing, and again, that we've ended up doing for so many years is using his contract as a piggy bank. So now it's a $17.5 million hit, and that's where a lot of people keep saying, oh, well, Dez Bryant, you got to keep Dez. We don't have another guy to replace him. But when you start looking at, and I keep trying to say, you can't look at football with your heart, because if you do, you're never going to win. You can't pay Dez Bryant $16.5 and Tyron Smith $17.5 and think that you're going to be able to field a complete team. Because
think about it like this too. The Cowboys, the clock is ticking, guys. I mean, we just saw Jimmy Garoppolo get the highest paid contract in NFL history as a quarterback. Guess what? Kirk Cousins, in a couple of months, he's gonna surpass him, and he's gonna become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which means Dak Prescott has a rebound season next year. Well, the clock is ticking with Zeke and with Dak.
That you're gonna have to pay.
The amount of time they have to pay these guys what they're paying them. I mean, they're paying Dak nothing. Most quarterbacks are going to take up
$600,000. You've got backup quarterbacks that are making twice of what he's making.
It's incredible. Most quarterbacks take up 40 to 50% of their salary cap. The Cowboys quarterbacks taking up 1% of their salary cap right now.
Right.
So the fact is, and that's what made the Seahawks so successful over the period when Russell Wilson was
you hit the nail on the head.
They were paying him nothing. So the clock is ticking for the Cowboys to have some success while they don't have to pay Dak Prescott, the highest paid quarterback money, because that's what he's going to end up getting, because every quarterback that's contracted up will eventually become the highest paid player in the history of the NFL.
Right. And again, you're 100% right on that one. And everybody keeps saying we need to get rid of Dak and try and sign a Kirk Cousins. And I'm kind of like, you do realize that Dak Prescott has beat Kirk Cousins 4 times in a row, right? In here. It's just for whatever reason, people just hate Dak Prescott for whatever, even though...
Well, maybe there's a Romo thing there, which I kind of understand. But I'll say this about Dak.
It's funny, that you bring up Tony Romo, because the same people that used to want to run Tony Romo out are now swearing that he is a god and we need him back. So it's kind of like maybe some of these fans, we just can't keep happy in here, no matter what we do.
I think with Dak, I mean, fans are right to question if Dak's the guy. I think that's legit.
Oh, God, yeah.
Two seasons, one where he was good, one where he wasn't. But I don't think we have enough information to know one way or the other. I'll just say this. I think if you were to say, hey, which one do you think? What bet would you place? I'd place a bet on Dak being a pretty successful quarterback.
Well, see,
I think
a lot of that, though, I still relate.
Can't be multifaceted.
See, a lot of that I still relate back to the coaching. Because in Jason Garrett's tenure, you haven't seen him progress any quarterback. Tony Romo had his skills originally from Sean Payton. And so everybody else that's come through there, you're telling me that you had Brandon Wheaton. I know Brandon Wheaton wasn't exactly the best quarterback stock, but you had him on your roster for a year and a half and you couldn't coach him to win one game? So is the question of Dak regressing a problem in he's not getting taught well? Is it a process of the offense is pretty much predictable? And teams ended up basically figuring out, hey, if we go ahead and do a run blitz, if we make Zeke Elliott have to make a move in the backfield as opposed to getting mauled by that big offensive line and then put it on Dak Prescott with a predictable offense, we can shut things down. So that's the big question that I have is it time to move on for the sake of change just to bring in something else, a different look? The book is out on Jason Garrett. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to do in the offense. There's no creativity at all.
Well, I think, and I saw somebody was writing about this, about Doug Peterson, and they were basically talking about how good Doug Peterson is at, taking the talent that he has and fitting his schemes around that talent.
Amen.
And Whedon is a great example, man. Whedon is a fantastic example because if you remember the year of Whedon, he was released by the Cowboys and signed by the Houston Texans.
And a week and a half later, he's winning a game for the Texans. It's kind of like, wait a minute.
Playoff.
Yeah, how in the world is it that you had him for a year and a half And you couldn't get him to do squat. And realizing that his problem is he cannot go to the left. He cannot throw to the left, but yet you can't continue to try and make him go to the left and throw interception after interception. You know, he was not Tony Romo, but they treated him like he was.
And that's the point here, is Bill O'Brien brought him in and was like, hey, let's look at what you did to Oklahoma State. Let's duplicate that. And they won a game.
That's
Brandon Whedon's not Joe Montana, but, I mean, they won a game with Brandon Whedon as their quarterback because they did some simple play action, zone read stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. When Whedon was the starting quarterback of the Cowboys, they were expecting him to run the Romo offense. And this goes back to, like, know who you have and change your schemes. It's not just about, you know, being conservative and not going for it on fourth down. It's about, you know, fitting your schemes to fit the right players. And that is something that Jason Garrett hasn't really proven an ability to do. He's really able to condescend to the media and talk like he knows what he's talking about, but most of the time it sounds like he's talking out of his ass.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, when you watch Jason Garrett, pull up the last two Green Bay Packers games, the playoffs and when we lost during the season. I swear they're identical. You cannot tell which is which because they're all exactly the same thing. You know, he's leaning on the podium. You know, we'll have to look at the film and then we'll go.
No, totally. We fixed it. We're moving on. You know, it's like all he does is address things, fix them, and move on. He never seems to fix anything.
Right, and it's always a slogan. Okay, you know, the one that killed me this past season was after the Atlanta game when clearly we just got eaten by Chaz Green, and you know Dak was just beat ruthlessly. You know, had it been Tony Romo, he might be in a coffin right now.
Oh yeah, big time.
And the idea, the person said, did you consider taking Dak Prescott out when it looked like you had no chance? And it was like, oh no, we played for 60. What? You're going to be playing without a quarterback next week if you keep this crap up. Are you kidding me? There's a time to cut bait and, you know, just say, okay, we're done. It's just like, the thing with me is you have good game plans. You go in there, okay, you start out the first half, but we cannot adjust in second halves. You look at a guy like Pete Carroll, I believe he's 47-0 when he's had a second half lead of 4 points or more at halftime. I think Jason Garrett with a halftime lead is like, I want to say 8 out of 19.
He does clap a lot, though. A lot of clapping. Just really good clapping. Really good clapping, though. I mean, he looks great clapping, does he not? He went to Princeton. I don't know if you know that, but he went to Princeton. It's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, okay, this should not be pile on Jason Garrett night because he did just lose his father and, you know, prayers to his family and everything else. But it's just some of these records that we have as Dallas Cowboys. I mean, the fact that we lost to Green